Any views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by the journalists and guests are solely that of the journalists and guests and do not reflect the views, opinion, policies, or positions of Positive Lifestyle Management, LLC.
Greetings, brothers and sisters, men and women all around the world. Welcome to another episode of Positive Lifestyle Management PLM News Network. I'm your brother Fiji, and today we have a very important topic, and we call it the meetings of the mind. And this meeting of the mind, we're going to address a lot of issues. We're going to address a lot of things when it concerns the organization, from the inception of the organization all the way up to today. I have three important brothers that I grew up with, and my co-host, the brother Blayland, is also going to be involved as well. So at this time, I'm going to bring in all our guests so that we can get down to business. You know, I got D-Mac, I got Blayland, Tank, and the brother Cash. So at this time, brothers, I would like for each one of you to give a introduce yourself and give a brief uh, introduction about yourselves, man. We're gonna start with the elder of the group. We're gonna start with Tank first.
Greetings, my brothers. I come to you with love, much love to the brothers, and understanding. And I just want to say it's good to see y'all this morning, man. Hope everybody's truly blessed. Their family's truly blessed. I come to represent and give my the historical view from my perspective of where I was at and where I lived through this thing from the inception of the new concept, from the old concept into the new. So that's what I'm here to do. My name is Tank, and I hope everybody enjoy this conversation because it will be enlightening and educational.
Greetings. Plenty much love to everybody that's here present and those that will be watching this in the future. My name is Brother Blayland, originally from Birmingham, Alabama, now residing in Maryland. I'm here as an outstanding member and an excellent student, hopefully to learn a lot. Love.
Hey everybody, how y'all doing today? I'm D-Mac. Um, Born and raised in Chicago, been a part of this thing since I was a kid. I've been in the hellhole for 23 years. Learned a lot from outside and inside. Learned a real lot. Grew up inside, been locked up since I was 19. Got out when I was in my 40s. So hey, I'm here to give the knowledge that I know, that I have learned, so everybody will know how to obtain where to go with this living this life or this lifestyle.
And last but not least, the brother Cash.
Greetings, networkers. I'm Cash, and first off, let me say, man, it's not fair because a lot of the topics and some of the things that we will discuss will be things that my brother Fee have been discussing for years. You know, uh, it's a shame that I'm just now getting a chance to meet a lot of you, but all of the conversations that you've had with my brother, I can assure you that he and I was directly in contact with one another, and those conversations has breezed through these ears before they even graced y'all. So I just want y'all to know I'm here as an extension of my brother, and I will share my knowledge of the organization and of our hearts and minds and our goals and our future. Uh, we shall talk in depth So just sit back and you'll learn a lot about me. You already know my brother, so you probably know a lot about me already. Yeah. Okay, so let's get into it.
All right, brothers. This is what we did, networkers. I brought this panel on, this distinguished panel. I've been knowing each one of these brothers, Cash, as well as D Mac and Tank. I've been knowing them for Cash and D Mac for over 30 years. Tank is a little bit further, probably like 35, almost. Yeah, about 35 years. You know, since I was a kid coming up through Stateville Correctional Center. So I've been knowing these. We got at least 30 years in with each other, 32 years in with each other. So we have been around a lot of the same peoples. If we wasn't there at the same time, then we came later. And so a lot of the things that you all are going to hear, you we all know this. We all know this information, and what we are about to do, we are about to share it with the public because you all deserve it. So that way, it won't be no more misunderstanding. If there are any questions that anybody have, man, please don't hesitate to reach out, man, to PLM News Network, man, and we gonna get to it, man. So I'm gonna start, man, with uh with Tank. Tank, get a get a public a brief background and history of you, where you come from, how long you've been part of the organization. Just explain who you are so people can know who you are, because you have been on the show several times, so people, they have seen you, but explain now to all our, to the new subscribers and everything, who you are.
Uh, um, okay. My name is Tank. I've been living in Joliet, Illinois. Uh, I was in Stateville in 1980. I, I started out in probably in Logan somewhere first. Stayed down there a couple of weeks. Got into a little ride or something with some white boys on some Aryan Nation. I don't know what they was on, but we built a coalition between the brothers, the Lords, the Stones, and us. We built the coalition, and we went to war. We whooped them. So we left. We went to Stateville. Got to Stateville. We was then under the. At that point, everybody was under the old laws. Everybody was under the old laws. Uh, the old laws was what I knew from the street. So when I came in there, I'm saying that to I'm in Sage, so I'm telling that to one of the guys who working the guy. He say, "Hey man, well, that's gonna be over with. That's gonna be symbolic in our past, something that we live, but we not using that no more. They've come up with a new approach to life, and I'm looking at him like, man, what are you talking about? So he had me thrown for a minute. So once I got into the cell house, which was D house. Back then they had E house, D house, F house, all these cell houses. So once I got in there, man, I met some brothers. We was on they call unassigned, what they call the unassigned gallery. Everybody on the gallery is unassigned when they first come in. So I'm like 19 then. So I get in there. I'm still kind of wow, gangbanging. You know, I'm looking at it, man. I ain't borrowed none from no, we had the coalition and I knew that we built the coalition, but at that time it was out of necessity because it was a racial thing. So everybody kind of joined forces. But back to what my mind said and what they mind said at, we actually was beefing with these guys. So when I got there, I started saying, "Hey man, ain't mess with none of them dudes." They say, "Hey man, look, we ain't having none of that here. We're finna show you something." Man, they gave me that. They put that lit under me. They said, "This is what you're gonna read right here. You're gonna learn this document." So what I soon learned, man, that I didn't understand at that time, but you develop into this. But they had broke down how the whole group, the organization, how we gonna approach every situation. They had broke down everything that's to be done, every approach on a new way of doing things, a new way of approaching situations. Somebody, old man them and them had got together, came up with a way that we was gonna present ourselves to the world and how we gonna organize. And they set up a structure, man. So uh, that's where I came from, and that's where I went to a state in Stateville for a number of years. Met a number of people and became and learned and just went on from there, man. And throughout my years, Chicago and Joliet and just moving around different places, man, and seeing different people and how people do things.
So how many years have you been part of the organization?
I've been a part of the organization for oh my God. No, I've been a part of the organization for more than 40 some years.
Okay, so you became a part of the organization in the '70s. We were still up under the old law. And
Yeah.
D-Mac, where are you from, D-Mac, and how long have you been part of the organization?
Well, I've been part of the organization since officially was always hollering it or whatever, like 81. I hollered, but I officially got plugged in 1983. I was a coordinator in '84, so I was a coordinator all the way till I went to jail. And when I was in jail, I was a UC, ILC, whatever,
Yeah.
assistant ILC, literature teacher, on the education staff, everything. You know what I'm saying? So I grew up in jail. I was a teenager when I went there, came out when I was in my 40s. So, and I come from a neighborhood, I come from Inglewood. So all my friends and they mothers and fathers was a part of the old concept. You know what I'm saying? So we knew the history of everything and all that because I stay right in the heart of it. So all my friends and all that is the mothers and fathers of our elders. I mean they
Okay,
the children of our elders. And
okay.
I'm here to give knowledge that I know. Yeah.
And you, Cash?
I don't go back as I don't go back as far as some of the younger brothers you got sitting here on the panel. Uh, I was
Uh,
about I was about 15, man. I was about 15, 16 when I was intrigued with the guys. And back then it was like the ghetto boys say, it was the way they walk, the way they talk, the way they act, the way they wore their gangster hat. You know what I'm talking about? And I wanted to be a part of that, man. And I later learned that it was more to it than what meet the eye. But yeah, I've had some long walks in prison, some lonely days, and that type of stuff. But dad was a father to me on paper, and he taught me how to be the man that I am right now today. And
Okay, and
as we talk and as we enter some of these subjects, I'll tell you how that came to be.
all right, my brother, and brother Blaylen.
Yes, sir. I first became part of the organization in 1989 in Birmingham, Alabama. From 89 to 94, I was under what we call in down south the 360 concept, which was the banner of BGD. The knowledge at that time was about the yellow brick road, mountains, eagles, cactuses, pyramids, three-headed dragons, and the likes of that nature. Then in 94, I was introduced to the creed and the 1 through 16, but the 1 through 16 had no definitions with it. And I functioned under that banner, which I was told then it was just GD. It was no longer the banner of BGD. To about roughly about 2004 or 5, when I met a brother from Chicago by the name of Cole Bay out of Inglewood. He began to enlighten me on the actual transition from the old concept to the new concept about all the knowledge, I would say the symbolic knowledge, and how that was no longer what it is, what it's supposed to be in the beginning. And that's when I began my journey to actually getting the new concept in depth. Then when I came home from prison, which was around 2012, I moved to Maryland, got officially plugged in under a sanction count, and then got the information I actually needed to carry out. My first time reading the blueprint was actually 2014. First time I ever got it, ever saw it, ever read it in depth. Same thing with the official black and white, 2014. First time I ever had it in my hands. Not the George Knox version of the black and white, like actual, the real lit, and was able to read it and understand it for what it was. But I'll get more into that later on in the show.
All right. Thank each one of you brothers. I've been I'm from Chicago, the west side of Chicago, K-Town. I've been part of the organization since 1978 officially. I came in under the BGD banner. My whole family has been part of this organization. I've functioned on the street. I've functioned in prison. I've been a part of. I've served over 33 years of my life inside of some prison, whether it was juvenile prison, state prison, federal prison. So I've been around and I've been a part of the organization. So at this time, man, we gonna open this flow up, man, and we gonna build. This is a meeting of the mind panel. This is not no interview. I am not interviewing you all. This is a meeting of the mind, and we're going to discuss some things. And what I would like to do is the first thing is this here, is go back to the beginning. But as we going back to the beginning, I want to be able to say, okay, let's get to it. Let's hit the meat. Let's educate, and we're gonna start out. Now, in the 1960s, we had two different organizations at the time, man. We had the gangsters and we had the disciples. David was the leader of the disciples. Larry was the leader of the gangsters. The gangsters were the smaller organization compared to the disciples and the Blackstone Rangers and the Vice Lords. Now, the Vice Lords is known as the fathers of the super gang because they came about before the Stones as well as the disciples. So the Vice Lords they known as the super gang. In the 60s, now you have the disciples and the gangsters. Now, the gangsters and the disciples, they was fighting each other at one time. So in 1969, Larry, who was a king, they wasn't using the king at the time, they was using president. Larry was the president of the gangsters. David was the president of the disciples. They came together, they formed BGDN. That we all know. For the records, and I want everybody to understand this here, Durkee did not have anything to do with none of this here at this time. This was Larry Hoover and David Barksdale. And so at this point, now Tank, I want you to step in, Tank, because you the elder out of this group. We need you to step in and explain what's going on. You know what I'm saying? What happened at that time?
As we know, they had no kings, so the Stones came to the old man about joining. They came to King David. They came to David first, but David said, "Oh no, I got my own." So they came to Larry and said to get him to make him an ambassador. So he said, "Oh no, I ain't gonna do that." So as this was going on, David came to Larry and said, "Man, what I do we'll both be kings. We both sit on the throne together. Won't be no. It'll be a power sharing, thing. Nobody will have different power. We'll have the same power. We both sit on the throne. The stones are getting bigger. They're taking over turf territory. Taking and we fighting each other and we fighting them at the same time. We join forces because they joining forces with others, and that would give us strength to hold our own. So that's what they did. So they both became the first two kings in Chicago. In the street organization, they was the first two kings ever to call themselves in the city of Chicago. They came together and they merged, sit on the throne together. All the other stuff is bogus lies and made up stuff because he ain't here, others ain't expressing it. People putting videos, writing all kind of bogus stuff. Dudes saying all type of stuff, man. I've seen some people, man, that I used to really respect. I have no respect for them no more because of the total lie for no reason. I don't know, and then everybody know if you really look at it how it happened. Guys, these gangsters and disciples joined forces. That's why that's why the GD black they became the Black Gangster Disciple Nation. That's why it became so big. We all know that because they all formed together under one.
Okay, Brother Blayden.
Yes, sir. In reference to the beginning, 1969, the merger. Like I said, I came in Alabama, and the history that hit Alabama was there were three kings: David, Hoover, and Freeman. When you throw the pitchfork, their names sat on top of each one of the prongs. That's the history we got. And also, Jeff Fort was in our history about how he betrayed the three and went and started his own thing. That was the history that came to Alabama. I can't say how far in the South it spread it, but I've met people from North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia that all got that same information. So, for clarity's sake, it was just two in the beginning, Mr. Hoover and Mr. David, that joined together and made BGDN. And I'm reiterating that question because, as we were taught in the South, that David did bring the D, that Hoover did bring the G because he put the G in the middle of the star. And it was Mr. Freeman that put the black in front of it. And that's what created BGDN. That was the history that came down south. And so you're saying that's not accurate information?
Oh, what the brother Tank said was the truth. It was only two, and it was the old man. It was King David. So, and it wasn't no assistant or nothing. They both shared the throne. That's why when it started, you had two kings and two princes. You had Prince Oldtimer and you had Prince Tennessee. So they shared it, so it wouldn't be no because the disciples didn't like the gangsters at all. Period. That's just point blank. So they had somebody there to cover the gangster side, and they had somebody to cover the disciple side. So that's why they had two kings and two princes, Prince Oldtimer and Prince Tennessee. So that is the real history of how it started in '69. So all that other stuff, like Tank was saying, um, all them stories and all that type of stuff is non-existent. It was only two, King Dave, King Hoover, and that's what it was. So all the gangsters going under Larry, all the disciples went under King David. So that's what it was. Mm.
Cash, would you like to add?
But yes, if we think about it in retrospect, like thinking about it right now, Shorty Freeman was a disciple. He was already part of David. We were all black. We didn't need nobody to bring us black. That's what we were. That's what we. That's what we were standing up for. Our people. So if you think about it in that way, you like, You know what? You're right. And Shorty wanted to have his. He developed his kingdom after Barksdale told Chief that he was the one. So he severed and made himself a king of the disciples and left the G alone because he didn't want to deal with Larry.
So let me ask this question. Did he form his kingdom or did Durkee appoint him? Because I'm asking y'all this question, right? Because I talked to 3 of the originals this morning. I talked to Lil John, I talked to Panama, and I talked to Bo Dilly. And this is what was said to me by them because they were there, that Shorty came along later. When he became king, it was later on, and that Durkee was the one that actually appointed him as their king. Because Durkee was actually the leader. Durkee split after David passed away and they was in prison. Durkee actually split because Durkee was up under the disciple. He the one that started everything. And some followed Durkee and some followed Larry. And that Larry was the one that said, listen, man, his whole aim was to keep the organization intact as one, to respect the D out of love and respect for David. It was Durkee who pulled away. And that when David died as a BGD. He did not die as a black disciple. And the heir to the throne is actually Larry Hoover. Shorty became king later on, in maybe 4, 5, maybe 6, 7, maybe almost 10 years later from 69. If you look at it like that, he came king later on. He was nowhere in the picture. Nowhere in the picture. He was just a renegade at the time. They called themselves renegade disciples. That's what they was. So that's to clear up all this stuff here, man.
Please like, share this video, comment, and subscribe to the PLM News Network channel, because our sole purpose is to educate and stand on truth and facts.